Another wonderful harmony person, of course, is the absolute genius of one of the great geniuses of the 20th century harmony is Gershwin. Sorry. So clever, yeah. And that is using that's using an added sixth. And I think he did think he needed a piece at that moment in Porgy and Bess, and he couldn't work it out. He just knew it was the weather was warm and needed something emotional and powerful at that moment. And he went out for a walk. Gershwin went out for a walk, as lots of us do when we're trying to have an idea. Yeah. Went out for a walk, and he came back knowing it all the way through. Yeah. Summertime. I don't think with the words, but with the tune, more or less what it was going to be. And that has a kind of sultriness, doesn't it? Yeah. Very clever. Now, you can see from this that I'm a harmony person. Yeah. I adore harmony and clever harmony.
Lots of people put their emphasis more on the melody, I suppose.
But you see, I think lots of those people who put their emphasis on the melody are actually thinking of the harmony. Yeah. So they'd say, yesterday is such a good tune, they'd say. Is that... Absolutely. Does that go on in our minds? Is that harmony going on in our minds while we hear it? What about plainsong? What about in the old days? Te lucis ante terminum, rerum creator poscimus. Ut solita clementia, rerum et pom 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 pom, or something at the end. Now, is that got harmony to it or not? Is it pure melody? Te lucis, so is it Te lucis ante terminum, rerum creator poscimus, solita clementia.
Well,
which? It's meant to be a kind of...
Literally, it's just a melody.
Well, yes, of course, in a resonant church, abbey, huge abbey, you'll get...
You're singing with the old...
So you sort of
really
get a
discernible harmony. That's sort of it's harmony in a way, but it's sort of a mush of notes.
Yes, I think harmony quite often comes from that. And in quite often they would find in singing plainsong that they'd get slightly out and hear effects of two people singing at the same time slightly wrong and have the idea of doing it together. And that's how quite a lot of harmony began.
Okay. So you'd say harmony is incredibly important characteristic.
And people say it's melody.
Music. Okay.
And people say, oh, Tchaikovsky is a fantastic writer of melodies. I'd say, yes. But he, I can't remember which key it's in, but it... That one, Sugar Plum Fairy, I wish I could remember which key, but anyway. Has to be harmony.
Actually, you can't actually sing the melody because it's kind of the harmony that is the melody.
Quite often you find that, yes. On the other hand, you quite often find with Mozart, Beethoven, that the harmony is is relatively simple, but then it's the actual rate of change of harmony, I think, that often happens. Beethoven Fourth Piano Concerto. Orchestra comes in. Now, okay, the harmony is four repeats of that on each. You could say, a cynic, a musical cynic could say, oh, come on, just do this. If harmony is so important, couldn't you do that? So, what is different? Certainly not melody, because that's not very interesting. But each one of those chords has its effect. Tum, 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 as if you're saying something. So if you'll give me, so da, 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 take any kind of speech, dum, bum, bum, bum. So if you'll give me that, I'll be able to help you with da, da, da. And so there you could argue that it's wrapped up with speech. So if you'll give, so if you'll give, so if you'll give me that sweet, I'll eat it. You know. Yeah. And it has a kind of shape that mimics a human saying things. Yeah. And saying things emotional as well. It's no good just saying, you know, let's do the washing up. It's saying, I'd like you to give me something, or I'd like to give you this, which then makes it completely different. Yeah. Well, I remember I put off going to anything by Wagner until I was in my 40s. I just thought, I know I'm going to like Wagner, but I just haven't got time for him at the moment. And I went to Die Walküre, and I was overwhelmed by it, because I sat in my place in the theatre, Royal Opera, and at the beginning, at sort of 6:30 or whatever it was, and I was completely transported for 4.5 hours or whatever it was. And at the end, I'd been on a wonderful journey, during which I didn't look back. Now, he did that without the Tristan chord, but of course, Tristan chord is a fascinating example of how it can be done. Any composer wants to be able to do that, because if you're going to transcend the ditty, one little tune, one little song, if you're going to do better than one little song, you need all manner of devices for making it last longer. Yeah. Now, do you just want it to last longer? So here's a little ditty, and that's nice. Okay, here's a sad little ditty, and that's even nicer if it's a good one. Here is, here's a longer ditty. Oh, that just goes on and keeps repeating the verses. Here is a marvelous piece of music where you just lift, and you lift, and you lift, and you keep lifting, and you keep making things more interesting and more emotional in a particular way, and deposit somebody at the end, an exhausted emotional wreck, you know, not wreck, an elated person at the end. And that is obviously one's aim. And Wagner manages it, Beethoven manages it, Mahler does. For example, I remember the first time I had a Mahler symphony all the way through was Mahler 3 in Sydney Opera House Concert Hall, and I'd never been to a Mahler symphony all the way through before, and I was amazed at the way he just kept me not just interested but moved for the entire duration of the piece. A simple way in which one does it, Beethoven, you see, I've just been doing this. Now, a good composer is somebody who knows what to do next. What do you do there? That's called a half close there. So I'll do the end of it and then show you what he does, brings in the orchestra. Slightly different from what has happened before, and in a different key. And so immediately you're thinking new things, and you're going with him in a different way. Still with the same, still clearly the same piece, because we've got 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, all the same 1, 2, 3, 4. Why don't you go? But going in a different direction. Yeah. Fantastic. And then if he managed to, and then very soon that reaches the beautiful tune. And that is, I think of that as a beautiful tune because but there are two minor chords. There's minor and that minor. Normally it would be. But he says, oh no. Why is that interesting? Why is it good? Don't know. You know, there are so many unknowns that a genius will be able to find it out and demonstrate them to us. Now, whether ugly music can do that, yes, sad music does it because it taps into our sadness, taps into the sad part of our psyche and says, come along, come for a walk, sad part of psyche, we'll exercise you. And in exercising you, you will somehow, catharsis will have operated, and I don't know. And I'd like to ask your professor, because I think he'd have some lovely ideas about that. Yeah. But what about actual ugly music? First of all, who decides it's ugly, of course. And I would say, actually, if I found a bit of music ugly, I'm not going to like it. I'd like to just state that. I think that's a simple and straightforward equation for me. I can't think of any ugly music which I've then found moving.
A few weeks ago.
What about things like this? Stravinsky, Rite of Spring, or is it? No, it's that, I think. It's that chord with this chord at the same time. Bitonality, two different things. No, I think that has its effect. I don't think that's ugly. Yeah, but it'd be beautiful. Is slightly the wrong word, isn't it? Is it beautiful? It's captivating. It's engrossing.
A few weeks ago, KCL Choir, we did Victoria Requiem.
Okay.
And the motet right at the end. Urban Choir, I think it is.
Yeah.
Right on the last page, David Trendle said, he said, you're not meant to enjoy this. He said, this is ugly.
Really?
But he loved it. Like, he loves it. He said it's beautiful, and you should have seen his face when he was.
Versa est in luctum. Well, I disagree with him. I don't think it is ugly. I think it's fabulous, and it
is. And I think he thinks that as well. But
yeah, no, I'm sorry. Yes, I understand that. I think words aren't quite accurate enough here. I don't think we've quite got the word to describe it. Yeah. The depths which it taps. Victoria Requiem, I have to say, is I think that one of the most extreme examples of something which is simple and effective. It's quite difficult. When you sing it, it's not difficult, is it, to read and get right, and it's simply written with pretty simple harmonies and counterpoint which just works beautifully. And it is just so beautifully put together that it's easy, and yet it's magnificently, overwhelmingly beautifully moving as a requiem, and requiem as well. That's very interesting. And however, I couldn't just say, okay, and expect you to be moved.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's ugly and goes to the place which analyzes it, says whether it's beautiful or ugly. So I would say, therefore, the word ugly used for versa est in luctum, my harp is turns to mourning, is the translation of that. And in other words, I'm using my harp for mourning instead of for joy. And meaning that my harp, it's a kind of remarkable thing that a harp is used for, or a lute, luctum, harp, I think. It's a remarkable thing that it's used for misery rather than, and that's the point of the text. Yes, absolutely.